So at this point, I think it's safe to say that we now can go over and try to take a look at how we can separate the different parts of our model so we can actually texture them separately, because currently we only have one solid object. So let's go to this layer. You also see actually I cleaned up my blend file. So I have my recent designed model, then I have my details, and for example down here I have all my different modeling steps, and they're all renamed iron 4, 3, 2, 1. And here I have a duplicate. Let's call this one iron 7. And on this layer I have all my different separation surfaces, and I can make them use together with the Boolean modifier to separate actually my mesh. So they also all named logically, for example Boolean bottom separation, or Boolean handle separation, or iron vertical separation. So here I have my model, and maybe I could go to my modifiers, and first I have to apply my mirror modifier, and then I think kind of like a level 2 or level 1. Let's go for level 2. I click apply. Okay, so now I have a nice and fine mesh to work with. Because what I'm going to do now is I add a Boolean modifier. I add an edge split. And then I could say, well, here, use my handle separation. And then with difference, you see I have my different part. I could go to here, Shift D, duplicate M and 3, move this one over. And then basically do the same, apply, apply, and then go to Boolean modifier, handle separation, and let's add an edge split. So see, now I have my two different parts. So by selecting either difference or intersect, you see it's using A, or it's giving me A or B as the output. Now if I would like to streamline this a little bit or clean up my mesh, I could, for example, say apply the modifier, and once I do that, you see I have this mesh. That is what the Boolean modifier generated. And for example, I can delete those faces. Let's go to here and say apply. Go into edit mode, and also there I delete those faces. So now I have nicely high density meshes with a good material separation. Now let's take a look at, for example, this part. So this is iron vertical separation, and this is properly the model I can use. So I go to Boolean, iron vertical separation, and ooh, something like this happens. Well, this is actually slightly maybe a limitation of Blender. If I go to Union, I have this. So it's not really a problem. So however, this actually requires two things to be done. So I can, for example, Shift D, press Escape, and H, hide it, because this one I have to apply now. So I have this mesh, and then Alt H, here's my other part where I still have the Boolean modifier, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to here into edit mode and then say flip the direction of those faces. Let's go back to layer 3. And there you see now I have this part. And I can click apply. So now 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the last part maybe I would like to do is cutting the lower section. So this one here, I can add another Boolean modifier. And the name here is Boolean bottom separation. Boolean bottom separation. There it is. And I have a similar issue. Oh, and I have some nice extra details here. So there might be some extra work I have to do. So I Shift D, escape, hit apply, and then I can with L select this mesh, delete it, hide it, and then here, this is my duplicate. I recalculate the direction. And I have the lower part. And then I can click apply. And press H, Alt H. So here I have now all the different object parts. And this way, basically, I generate then all the different geometry shells I can use for texturing. Let me show you also another idea how you can use and do this in Blender. So I Shift D, M and 4, move this to layer 4. And now I say Boolean modifier. And this is handle separation. I add an edge split. So maybe I go handle separation. Okay, so you see it cuts this one out. But what I do now to this shell, I give it actually a small thickness. Some 0.1 millimeters maybe. So really, really thin hairline. And instead of intersect, maybe difference. And you can see there's actually the separation. Okay, so with this done, I could maybe add another Boolean command. Let's move the edge split down. And maybe select this one and give it a thickness and also 0.1 millimeters. Okay, great. And then here we say, what did I use before? Difference, yeah, difference. And then this should be vertical separation. And let's take a look. Yep, there we have our vertical separation. However, the problem, as you can see, is it cuts into here. And if we add the next Boolean modifier, the one that was missing. So here, solidify 0.1 millimeters. Okay, so difference and bottom. Okay, there it is. Let's save. Because basically It's not really a big problem, but what I can do now is I can Shift D, this one. Actually, hold on. First I delete it. I apply the mirror. I apply the subsurface. And then I apply my mirror. If I go into edit mode, I have all these faces in there. And I can just delete these faces. L, select everything inside here, and simply separate it, move it out. Then I can make this one visible. Here maybe I have to use union. Click apply, go into edit mode. And for example, see, it just separated it nicely. So I could go to here, press L, press P, separate it out. I can just delete this one, and here turn this one on. And maybe I have to turn this one to union as well. Union doesn't necessarily make sense, but because I use a volume with a surface, that's kind of like the result. If I go to difference or intersect, see intersect, it just kind of like you have the profile in there. Click apply, and then actually I can press H and select all those parts. Press Ctrl J. So maybe let's call this one 7 Boolean 1 mesh. So now there I have basically a model where I have again all my separation lines, but I have very, very tiny gaps. Specifically when I do a rendering, maybe those gaps will be better visible. While for example in this case, the gaps are not as easy to see because the edges are perfectly touching each other. And you will see how this can be used for the rendering part when we go to this after this video.